the Q&A feature to ask us questions we'll get to after some of the ones we've already been asked. Again, my name is Michael Margolis. I work in admin here at SCORE. And thanks for joining us today. This is going to be about a 1-hour webinar talking about AI and marketing, and kind of with the focus on being a beginner, getting into it, getting your bearing. SCORE is a resource partner of the Small Business Administration, and we help clients at all stages of the business cycle. We look forward to kind of responding to all your questions, as I said. Put them in the Q&A panel when they do come up. And I'll give a quick intro of our panelists here today. First, we have Ian Garcia-Grant, who's been working in digital marketing since 2019. He has experience in copywriting, video production, search engine optimization, PR, and other related tech skills. He's been at the forefront of managing analysis, integration, and research into AI marketing for Local Image, where he works as the Director of Content Development and SEO. We also have Rebecca Emery joining us today. She's a marketing communications executive with more than 25 years of experience working for corporations and agencies at B2B and B2C markets. She successfully led communications efforts for multi-million-dollar acquisitions, has helped launch new products and startup companies, directed web branding, digital marketing, and SEO programs. She's recently founded Seacoast AI, which is a training and consulting company that's aimed at helping small to medium-sized businesses harness the power of AI for business acceleration. She's also earned an MBA from Webster University and is accredited in public relations. Currently, she serves on the board of the Maine PR Council and previously served on the board of the Florida PR Association Space Coast Chapter and MIT Enterprise Forum of South Florida. We also have Leigh Reynolds joining us today. She's an 11-year SCORE subject matter expert in e-commerce and business growth. She has served as a fractional CEO for pharmaceutical startups since 2011. Leigh is also the founder of a marketing agency that focuses on conversion copywriting, Amazon branded seller consulting, and AI consulting. And without further ado, let's just jump right into it. So we have a few questions that people have asked in advance, and then we'll start addressing things that roll in during the workshop today. Our first one is kind of a bigger question, but here we go. This person said that they've heard that using open source LLMs, which stands for language learning models, like ChatGPT, can expose client data to the cloud, assuming that you're using ChatGPT, for example, to help with things regarding client information. They say that they know enterprise level companies can afford to get their own LLM and run on the company data. So having something that's kind of private, it sounds like. But there are affordable small business solutions in this category? And if so, which ones are worth looking at? And let's start with Rebecca. What do you have to say kind of about the concern of, using client data with larger models? And if that is a concern, some smaller, more affordable LLM options for folks to be using?
I think it depends on whether you're going to be using that for commercial use of a product or not. If you're just using an LLM to query and generate content, and you're concerned about privacy issues, you have every right to be concerned. I mean, these models have been very open in the beginning about that. Some use the information that is given in, so in input, for training purposes. Others do not. They say they do not. Now, you don't know 100% for sure. An LLM is a large language model. That's what we're talking about. That's the type of model that uses natural language generation and natural language processing to process lots of information and essentially converse with data using natural language. So that's what we're talking about here. And GPT is a large language model founded by OpenAI. And it has a different approach than some of the other large language models. And it's tough to discern each one, but I think a good rule of thumb whenever using an LLM is that if you're uploading confidential information or proprietary information, you want to be cautious and that the model could use it for training purposes. There's a way in GPT to turn off training and memory when you're using a chat. Not all the tools offer that. And then whenever you're using, say, Microsoft Bing or Google Bard, you have to understand that Microsoft and Google are two of the biggest providers out there that know how to monetize their platforms, which means they're looking at all that information and using it for intelligence purposes. So there are ways to host your own LLM. You can use Amazon Web Services. You can even host it. They're figuring out how to host it on a simple, Mac. And those are pretty cost effective. The challenge is that while you can get a hold of the LLM, the training is what takes time and takes resources, and you can scale up using multiple servers to do that, but it depends. I recommend that if you're trying to get or have an LLM that you can train, there are some solutions that will help you with that, and there are some solution providers out there. I'd recommend finding a partner that specializes in that. It's not necessarily an easy task. And I'm guessing Ian might have some good thoughts on how to also answer that question.
Yeah, I mean, you pointed out, Rebecca, that there are several AI tools out there that claim that they aren't going to use this data, but I would caution that kind of nothing is sacred right now. I mean, there's such a race for data. All of these models are extremely data hungry. So just for context, we're talking about numbers of billions of points of data in training these models. And so at the very low end, you have 7 billion or more points of data. At the high end, you have way more, as much as they can feasibly fit in there. And that we're talking scraping the English language to the point where there isn't anything of quality left in many cases. So logically, the next place they have to go is any data that they have if they're going to further refine and improve these models. So if you're using any kind of online AI tool, I would caution against using anything that is very sensitive or could in some way either incriminate or create liability. You don't want that to necessarily be out there regardless, obviously, but in the same way you don't want to store that in a publicly accessible place. You don't want to put that onto an AI model. This isn't really something new. It's just a new platform in which you have to take steps to be secure with your data. As to the kind of the smaller, more budget-oriented LLM models that exist, things like Llama or Alpaca, you really run into a quality issue unless you have enormous training sets. And again, that's where you're probably hearing the enterprise level companies are able to put this together. They're able to train it on their last 40 years of data that they've digitized, and that can be very effective. But as a small business, you're just not going to have access to the amounts of data that you need at an affordable rate to have something that's going to really work well for your use case. So it might be better to find ways to not expose sensitive data while taking advantage of these more common large AI models that are being used online today, just as in terms of strategy.
Thank you guys for weighing in there. And just a quick, I've seen this come up a couple of times, so I just want to address it before we go too much further. A couple people have asked what an LLM is. I've briefly mentioned just the phrase language learning model, and you guys have. But Leigh, do you think you would be able to give us just a very, simple overview of what an LLM is, just so folks can feel like they're on the same floor? We know ChatGPT and Claude are both LLMs, but what is it?
That's part of the challenge of AI, because they have their own language for everything. But once you figure out what it is, it's easy to make sense of it. It's a large language model, and that just means that it's basic. Well, I don't know how to understand how this means, other than that's what is being used by all the companies that are creating AI. That's their basis. That's where they start, and then they go in and break it down into chatbots and all those kinds of things. I think Ian will probably say this better than I can. I'm sorry about that, but
sure. So it's just the type of data it's being trained on. So much more visually oriented AIs, for example, like you think of Midjourney, where you can generate images, and that's trained on image-based data, whereas a large language model is trained pretty much entirely on natural language or artificial, what is artificial language, right? But like essentially natural language that natural so like first language users are generating. So it follows grammatical rules, it makes sense, it might be creative, it's unique. So using those large sets of data, they can actually create predictive algorithmic models for what words tend to come after what other words, which is kind of strange to think about, but that's actually how most of these models work to generate any kind of written content. Is they're always thinking about, statistically, what percentage chance is there that the next word is the, and it's using kind of a combination of randomization and just enormous data sets to create very coherent and unique language.
Great. Thanks for getting that out of the way. I just, know it's going to come up in a lot of people's lives. I just want to at least get that idea out there. Our next question is a little more straightforward than the previous one, but this person wants to know how AI can be used to make marketing less time consuming, but still authentic to your own business. Ian, if you want to start fielding this one, I can jump in.
Absolutely. So Rebecca actually mentioned earlier that you can train these models a little bit, and that's probably the most important thing you can do in order to make something put out by an AI actually sound good. So one way you can do that with something like ChatGPT or Claude or one of these other LLMs that are available online is you can give it examples of your company's voice, of the kinds of terms you use, who your target demographic is, your audience in general, like ages, location, etc. And like the tone you're going for, all these different things. If you can kind of train it on what you need, it will give you a much better approximation of what you're looking for. Even if you do this, though, there is going to be some tweaking, but it's a lot less time consuming than creating something from scratch. And one of the best ways I would say to use an LLM for content generation is to actually use it as a way of just coming up with ideas. One of the biggest stumbling blocks we come across in the content industry in general is that I've written about this 500 times. So finding a new way to approach something is often the most valuable way to use an asset like ChatGPT.
And I know that you've also used AI in kind of creative capacities, Rebecca. So I was curious if you also had ways to speak to kind of retaining that sort of authenticity if you do decide to use something like ChatGPT to help with marketing your business.
Absolutely. So I like to think of AI or generative AI, ChatGPT, like a brainstorm buddy, right? It's been trained on all of this massive amounts of data. And it also understands patterns, like what a tweet is or a SWOT analysis. It knows the construct of those patterns. And as Ian said, it's trying to predict the next word. So an example that I use is, I always say, do, re, mi, fa, so, la, ti, do, right? Your brain probably already went there halfway through that statement, even if you haven't heard it in a decade. GPT is generative. It's trying to predict the next word. And what's great about it is it's been trained on all this data and also been trained on patterns. So it's wonderful to go to GPT and have a conversation with it. I want you to act like a copywriter. I need to develop content for my new company that is X. My company does Y, and I'm looking to accomplish Z. And you basically have a conversation with it. And you can say to it, I'm going to upload information in my brand tone and voice, and I want you to analyze that. I want you to for example, my 78-year-old mother used GPT the other day to write a newsletter article for her 55+ community. And I said, great, Mom, what'd you do? What'd you write about? She said, well, I wrote an article, what to flush and what not to flush, right? Very simple. This isn't confidential information. And then she said, and I even asked GPT to make it funny, and it did. And it's wonderful because you can take the information that it generates and then you can work with it and mold it and have it change the tone and the voice. And you can build a conversation with it. Then you can say, okay, based on this conversation we've had, now I want you to go and develop a SWOT analysis for this business, or I want you to give me 5 tweets, or maybe you're coming into a new market. So give me 5 quotes about X, and then I'm going to put out some social media content. And so what's nice, especially when you're working in OpenAI's GPT, is that you can create these threads and these conversations that are contextual. I want you to act like a copywriter, and I want to write this content, and I'm going to give you as much information as I can, and I want you to draw on the information you have in your knowledge base, and let's develop this together. And then you can ask it to regenerate and so forth. The other great thing that these are used for are competitive analysis. So if you go to Microsoft Bing or Google Bard, they're web enabled, and you're able to query them and look at, for example, a Facebook page and look at sentiment and tone and see whether you can even have it compare it to the company's own website and say, are they matching their brand and tone in both social media and online? You could also go and analyze a competitor's website and say, what should I do for my website from an SEO strategy standpoint? If my competitor is this, what are they using in terms of keywords and content strategy that maybe I can draw from and do better in my world? And then you can even ask it to map out a plan and a timeline for the next 20 days of the things you can do to build backlinks and change your keywords and so forth. So again, I encourage people to use AI like a brainstorm buddy, and to develop a thread and a conversation and give it lots of context about what you're trying to market, and you'll be amazed at what it comes up with.
And a quick follow-up here from Stephen Long asking if something like this is possible with Bard, like providing, information from your company's website, for example. Yep. Seems like all you guys are nodding yes here.
Yeah, and you have to understand, and I know that Leigh has a good chart on this, but each model has its own personality, if you will. And the other day, I always recommend that people Google these, or not Google, but query these LLMs, right? So prompt them and ask what it knows about you or your brand, and make sure that that is on message and that's accurate. And you have an opportunity to change that. But I asked Claude the other day, what do you know about me? And it made up this beautiful background on how I had worked at Coca-Cola and went to college in Georgia, and none of that was true. And so you have to be very careful, because it's trying to predict the next word. Sometimes it can be a people pleaser, and it's up to us as humans to apply critical thinking, kick the tires, fact check. And one good best practice that I always recommend is ask it to cite sources. So it's one thing if you're writing an article, what to flush, what not to flush. You in your mind are going to quickly know whether it's giving you great material or whether it's not. But if you're doing something more with a little bit more expertise, I think it's very helpful to ask them, just part of your prompt, cite your sources in URL format. Just add that to your prompt. It's very helpful. And again, a prompt is the input and the output comes back from GPT. So we always talk in terms of inputs, outputs. Leigh, I know you have a pretty good matrix about the different personalities for the LLMs out there.
Yeah, I do. And what I want to just say too is that what I've done is that I've tried all the bigger ones, and I've decided which ones match whatever project I'm doing based on how it works. But once you try them and you say to yourself, okay, I'm going to do this project, and you start working with it, you can train it. It will know who you are. It will not only know who you are, but it'll sometimes it'll remember. It depends on how quickly you go back in. But it is important to allow it to understand what you don't like. So don't be afraid to say, you made a mistake here. I want you to say it this way. Just ask it or tell it whatever you need for it to do. It doesn't mind. Believe me, it feels terrible. Oh, I'm telling you, you're not doing a good job, but it wants to do a good job, and it will continue to try that as long as you keep nursing that information to them and saying, this is great. I always whenever they do something right, I say, this is exactly what I wanted. And whenever they do something wrong, I say, you did this, this, and this incorrectly. Let's try this again. And they'll try it 100 times if they need to. So just don't worry too much about. I think the big thing is to find out which one works best for you, because we all have our own needs, but try them all. You can use the same exercise and try them all and see which ones work best for you.
All right, I want to jump back in here just to keep it moving. And we did have another kind of quick follow-up here. Still related to, I guess we were talking about with John Hutchinson in terms of making sure that you're getting accurate information back, saying that sometimes ChatGPT can make up sources that don't exist, which I have, personally experienced in my use of AI, however limited it has been. So I think something we all want to reiterate is just to, like any other thing you're using on the internet, you want to make sure the information that you're getting back is accurate, if that is the kind of route you're going down.
Absolutely. That's very important.
You'll get better results asking for those sources with one that's linked directly to a search engine. So ChatGPT is very isolated, and it isn't actually permitted to access the internet, so it cannot provide you with accurate URLs as a result.
Yeah, and it'll tell you, I can't do this.
Right.
And when they tell you that, it means, or, so it is a good idea to just pay attention to what they say and move on to another one. If you use anything that's a Google product or a Microsoft product, they're going to be able to search the net, and you can get information from the net that you want to from them, or through them, I should say.
And so the next question we have that was kind of one that was asked in advance was what are maybe two of the most valuable use cases in kind of a marketing context where a company can be using AI? And Rebecca, if you want to start on this one, and then maybe we can kick it over to Ian and Leigh.
I think content generation in your brand tone and voice. And I think competitive analysis or data analysis. You can upload a PDF. I uploaded a spreadsheet. You can upload PDFs, spreadsheets. I upload, and in fact, Google's Bing is very good. Microsoft, it's the Edge platform, right?
You're talking about Bing?
Yeah, Bing is very good at larger data sets. So for example, I uploaded a spreadsheet with more than 10,000 records, both alphanumeric, and I was able to query that data in a meaningful way and say, what stands out to you as a trend? What stands out, what does the top numbers mean? What do the bottom numbers mean for my business? In other words, we have the opportunity to interface with data using natural language. That's what all of this is about. So I really think that generating marketing content on tone, on brand is number one. But number two, I really think is the analysis piece. You can have it analyze all kinds of things and sources of information. And it's very good and fast at doing that.
Yeah.
We just drill down a little bit more specifically on content that specifically what it's really good for is generating website content that will improve your SEO if you understand how to create a prompt that will actually result in that output, which does take work, and we might get into that a little bit towards the end here. And then the other thing is for social content. Social content, organic social is a huge driver of traffic. It can be a really good way to market your business. And it often feels like a really unpleasant chore as a business owner. So it's really great to be able to offload some of that work onto your AI assistant.
I just as a quick aside, we're getting a lot of requests just for some links, maybe some basic tools to get people started. I think we discussed this previously before, amongst ourselves before the webinar got started, but we can definitely put a couple links in the chat for you folks, and I can solicit some links as well from the panelists, and we can also make sure to include these in a post-workshop email. So we can definitely get some stuff out there for you. And at the end of the meeting, we can do a quick show of just how to get started with ChatGPT, for example, for those that are interested, if any of the panelists have time to stick around. And if not, I am happy to personally sign up for my own ChatGPT account and show you guys live as well. It's something I've done, and I can make one again and just show you how to get started with that. But moving on, we got another one. And it looks like we talked about this a little bit earlier, but maybe not directly. We have someone asking if there's any terms of service or copyright issues when using AI. And it sounds like we talked a little bit about this with regards to kind of client data, but maybe just a brief overview of the kind of things you're going to run into with, a TOS when using an AI tool. And Ian, if you want to start on this one, maybe.
Sure. So one thing to keep in mind is that terms of service can always be updated, and they will be frequently for the rest of time. So anything we say right now might age like fine milk. But what I would say in general is that you have to actually parse it yourself to some extent. You can actually use an AI model to read terms of service and let you know if there are any red flags, which it has been kind of fun to do, use an AI to police an AI. But you can also, whether it's good for you or bad for you, keep in mind that it's very likely that all things generated by an AI will not be copyrightable. So the Supreme Court, was it the Supreme Court? There was a recent ruling that basically dismissed the concept of copywriting AI outputs because there isn't a human factor. And it's unclear exactly how far that goes, what level of input you need as a human being to change that from AI generated content to just being something that you can actually copyright, real like normal content. Certainly with writing, that hasn't been challenged as clearly. I think this is primarily in relation to images. That said, the writing is sort of on the wall, so to speak, that that is going to be the case. So you don't really have to worry about something you create using, an AI violating copyright necessarily, but you definitely have to make sure you're keeping in mind that anything you create with an AI will not be copyrightable.
Yeah.
Sounds like you had do you have something to add on that, Leigh, at all?
No, I was just, yeah, he's got this. So I love the fact that he's got this down because it's confusing for everybody. And the only thing that I can say now is that just this week, we've had a ruling from there's been a ruling that what he just said in the end is that you cannot copyright anything that has not had human contact to it. In other words, you can't copy something that's done through AI, completely done through there. So, but that's the only really hard and fast rule that I think we have so far. The rest of them are out for trying to figure out what they're going to do. I think, is that right?
We'll see.
Yeah, that's we don't know. We don't know what the results are going to be from all the other cases that you can come up with.
I do have one that I think you might be able to field, Leigh. This was asked in advance as well as by Steve Veazey, but a good place to start, or maybe a good website to learn about writing more effective prompts.
Oh, you know what? There is so much information about prompt writing, and there's also tons of courses about it, which I think is actually probably a better way to go about it. And I can't give you all the names of them. I have lists and lists and lists of them. But I think learning to write a prompt takes an understanding of why you're doing what you're doing when you're learning. So I would definitely take a small course. Some of them are only, a couple hours. It doesn't take a lot of time. And, they look at Coursera, they have some courses about that, and just about everywhere. LinkedIn has courses on how to do prompts. I'd go to people that are reputable. I wouldn't go to just anybody off the web, but do a search for, how do you make prompts? How do you do that? And then just watch it, because there's no easy, we can't teach you that here. It's too much information to try to do that. But yeah, I've taken several of them and they all are good. So it's not a problem.
maybe if you have a recommendation of one or two courses, you can send those to me and I can
Yeah,
include
I've
that
got
in,
lists of them. I can, but I can't do it right now. I can't.
yeah, maybe
Yeah.
after sometime after the workshop, you can pick one or two and
Yeah, I
shoot it my
will.
way, and I can include them in the post-workshop email.
And the important thing is to learn why you have, I think it's important to understand how each one of these different chat boxes or LLMs work so that you understand how to address that prompt. And that's what they'll teach you how to do, how to recognize that, because they're different. They're each different. That's why a course is really better to do it.
Yeah, and I just, if you, Ian or Rebecca, if either of you have anything quick to add, I know we got a couple more questions to get to, so we'll keep it brief, but for, learning to prompt a little better.
So there's a great resource out there called promptbase.com, PROMPTBASE, promptbase.com. And what it allows you to do is go in and search your prompts by models. So if you're trying to prompt for images versus
That's
text,
yeah,
you can actually drop down and use the model. People sell prompts there. They obviously share prompts there. But this is a really open and vibrant community out there, and people are really willing to trade information, share information. Another place that I get a lot of great information from is on TikTok. Believe it or not, people are constantly talking about how they're prompting, how they're having conversations with GPT, how they're getting more information out of it, how they're refining those. The other thing that you can use is you can use a tool called like Copy AI. And what that does is allow you to be collaborative with your teammates, and you can actually save prompts for reuse. So if you were working in an agency or a company and somebody developed a really great prompt for doing this very specific SEO thing, they could put it right in the little prompt base. And within Copy AI, you can actually start to develop prompts that are collaborative. But I think a good place to start for anyone is prompt based, because it allows you to also see how people are prompting these models and understand that they're changing every day. I mean, it's only been in the last week or so that, for example, Midjourney allows you now to choose a specific region of an image and have it just change that region. So someone had 3 cats in a row and took the 3rd cat and changed it from a blue cat to a white cat, just simply by understanding how to use the prompting. So these tools are being these models are being evolved in real time, because they're learning from how humans are using it, and they're evolving and refining how people can interact with it. And therefore, these a tool like PromptBase is great because people are putting in the latest and greatest in there, and it's a free resource.
And just a really quick, like a quick and dirty tip, essentially. So you can do, at least with LLMs, is you can go in and give it an example and ask it, what prompt would you use to achieve this result?
Yep.
And that can give you a really quick, and it won't be perfect, but it'll give you a really good sense of how to go about prompting for that model.
No, I think that's a great idea. You just have a relationship with whatever you're using, and it'll help you. It'll tell you, this is what I need to know.
Yeah.
Let me unmute myself there. Okay, and I think we're kind of getting to the end of some of the advanced questions here, so we can start addressing some of the more ones that have come up to us during the panel. We have one from Ellen Canner, who is wondering if there is a good tool that can be used to schedule Instagram posts, also to Facebook or to blogs that uses AI. Do you want to see if you can tackle that one, Ian? I know you were talking about some tools the other day with us.
Yeah, so I'm putting a link into the chat real quick, futuretools.io. So for finding anything specific, I like to use a directory like this where you can just basically find exactly what you want. I'm not sure that there's, so a lot of the existing tools that would do like all the different facets of something like this for you aren't very good. Often finding more specialized tools and using them for what they're really good at is just going to get a much better result. So just a word of caution there. But yeah, there are new tools coming out every single day, like many tools every single day. So even if you have a very niche use case, there's going to be a tool specifically for it out there. And actually, Rebecca also dropped a good one, futurepedia.io. Futuretools.io is actively reviewed by the webmaster, and he will create video reviews of each of the tools as he gets to them. So you can get kind of even more specific insight into them that way, though.
Ready, thank you for that. And we have another question that I know Rebecca was looking to answer from Stephen Long, asking if there's free LLMs. So if there's free tools like Bard or ChatGPT 3.5, which I believe is one currently publicly available without paying, what would be the benefit of upgrading to ChatGPT 4?
And that's a great question. And you can use GPT-4 for free. They just limit how much access. Otherwise, and there's certain services that get turned on with 4. So the difference between GPT 3.5, which was the model that was released last November to the public and what started this firestorm, it was trained on about 175 billion parameters. So what I like to say is the size of a Subaru, right? Imagine that 175 billion parameters is the size of a Subaru. This March, OpenAI released GPT-4, and it's based on 1 trillion parameters. So what does that mean? It's the size of a 747. So you have to, and the other neat thing about GPT-4 is that it's multimodal. It's, instead of being just text to text, it's more data to text. So you can prompt text to image, image to text. There are, you can take and write out a diagram on a piece of paper and upload it, and it will try and lay it out for you. GPT is also very good for code. So keep that in mind, that it's actually an excellent engine for developing web code and so forth. But I think the difference between 3.5 and 4 is that 4 is a little bit more up to date, but it's significantly larger pool of data. It also offers some really neat features, one of which is being able to turn off the training and memory. So if you're using confidential information, you can toggle that on and off, and it's down in settings. The other thing that GPT-4 allows for is plugins, and this is really fantastic. There's a plugin for Expedia. There's a plugin for, I think, Zapier. There's plugins for interfacing with PDFs and so forth. There are plugins to create video, small, short outputs. And so, and that group of plugins is being evolved week after week, right? OpenAI, the idea is it's created this open API that is allowing these development companies to work with it. So I would encourage you to try GPT-4. I think you're going to find that it actually, if you're just trying to use something where you're looking for general information, general patterns, general content, and it's probably been written about as ad nauseum, right? How to write a marketing plan, GPT 3.5 would be fine, but 4 is a little bit more newer and dynamic, and it's more complex. And so I would highly encourage you to use that. And again, it's free, but it does limit you because it does cost OpenAI so much to run this. I mean, GPT runs on the 5th largest supercomputer in the world, and we have access to it every day for free. So I definitely encourage you to check out 4 and try it out, because it does offer some amazing features. Some of those are paid, but the paid is only $20 a month. I mean, it doesn't really break the bank, but it's helping them to offset some of their costs.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
I have one that actually came in a little while ago that I wanted to move on from, but I think we can come back to it now. Kind of about the more like copywriting and legal aspect we were talking about briefly, and I think someone was just looking for clarification, asking if the consensus seems to be that they're able to copy content or use content that is generated by an AI, but they can't copyright it. That's correct?
Yeah.
Generally speaking, yeah.
Yeah, it's, again, a lot of this is not settled in any meaningful way, but at this time, again, might age like fine milk, but at this time, there's really no reason to think that you cannot. Unless there's specifically something in the TOS, which again, you have to pay attention.
Thank you for addressing that one. Let's see, we got some more that were asked recently.
I just put some links to courses in the,
Oh, yes, I will make sure to include those in the
and there's
post
one,
email
one for
as well. We have one from Emily McRae, which is kind of more a specific thing about tools. But perhaps you could start with Leigh. Could you share a couple of the query tools you find most helpful? We've all heard of ChatGPT, but what are the other best options? And maybe give us one or two, maybe three at the most, that you think are particularly good.
You mean you mean chat boxes? Is that what that she's looking for?
The question used the phrase query tools. So in my interpretation of that is something a chatbot probably that you are able to
Chatbot. Okay.
ask things or have a conversation with.
So the big ones are, I think, so we talked about Chat GPT-4 just a few minutes ago, right?
Yes.
Then we have Claude, which is one of my favorites. It's very different. And we have Bing, which is owned by Microsoft, and a lot of people use it because you can use it right on, right when you go on to
Edge.
yeah. And then Bard is one of my other favorite ones, and that's a Google product, and that's when you go into do searches, it'll come up. There's a way it'll come up, and you can just use that at the top. And my very favorite one is called PI. I just love this one because it has a huge sense of humor, and those are the ones that I use all the time. All those.
How about yourself, Ian? Anything that wasn't mentioned in that list?
Not really. So I think we've said this before, but it really depends on what you're trying to do, what makes the most sense. So if you're trying to do something that's related to research, or you want to make sure that it's really well cited, you want to use something like Bard or Bing. If you want to have like kind of the most advanced kind of writing partner to facilitate, GPT-4 is really the best option for that. But there are so many specialized tools out there that if you have a specific use case, just use old-fashioned Google and figure out what people doing that are using, because there's tons of them and there will only be more going forward.
Is you as well, Rebecca? Anything that wasn't covered by those two summations?
Nope. I think those are all a really good, safe and interactive. Those are all places to start. I dropped all the I dropped all of the links in the chat that were mentioned. So I think any of these are great. I've been enjoying Bing a lot through my Edge platform. I've really been enjoying that. And again, Claude kind of made some stuff up, so it sort of turned me off in the beginning. I've heard a lot of people talk about it, but one thing to add to your prompt is just don't make anything up. You can really literally tell it that, and it will at least adhere to the rules of the session. So
yeah, I think you get used to each one of them, then you have whatever your needs are, you'll keep gravitating to those, but you should try them. There's
there's nothing holding you back. Just ask it a question, ask it for information, have a conversation with it. That's the whole, that's the whole jam here is allowing humans to interface with data and talk to it in natural language and have it talk back in natural language. That's really what we're working on right now.
And we're lucky that we don't have to pay for these.
Yeah.
All of them are free except for GPT-4, and that's it's $20 a month. So
yep.
All right, we are slowly kind of getting towards 1 o'clock, so I can understand if any of you folks have to dip out at 1 or after 1. The remaining questions we have, and I would encourage any folks to ask them if they still got them, but the remaining questions we have are mostly about kind of where to start finding these tools, which we've put some links in the chat, and again I will send those out in the post-workshop email. but also just going over on how to sign up on these platforms. I don't know if any one of the three of you just want to provide a quick demo of how to sign up on ChatGPT at all. Again, if not, I'm more than happy to make another account for myself using kind of my Score email here. But I think that might be a good thing to segue to.
I'd just say for that, it's easier than you think. It's just a Google sign in. Like it's intimidating maybe a little bit because it's very sparse and modern looking, but it's just like with so many other websites and services. If you just sign in with your Google account, it will automatically create an account for you. You don't have to do anything special.
Absolutely.
The other one that's really good is the OpenAI Playground. And what this allows you to do, and in fact, you don't even need to create a login for this. So I'm going to drop this link in, but this is the playground. And what this allows you to do is actually choose different models. So you can choose GPT 3.5, you can choose GPT-4, and then you'll see some things on the side, some gears that you can adjust, temperature, and you kind of have to play around with these, but they talk about the randomness. So temperature, if your temperature is 0, it's going to create this, very similar patterned outputs time and time again. But if you bring your temperature up to 50 or 100, you're telling it to go wild. You're telling it to be creative. And so you can toggle all of those. And so right within the playground, you can literally submit prompts and work. And it's really very easy to work with, and you don't need an account to try. And same thing with Bing and Bard, typically speaking, but you may need like a Google account or something to get in.
Yeah, just to really stress what Ian was saying earlier, it is really easy to get started with these and definitely get your feet wet. That's the best way to learn about it is to use it. Do a search for ChatGPT, do a search for Bard, and just jump in. It could be something as simple as, maybe you don't have a question off the top of your mind, just ask it to make a recipe for a cake and you can see what you can do. And then you can start asking about things that, involved with marketing your business, whether it be looking at competition, as we discussed earlier, or maybe trying to generate some content using an image generation source like Midjourney, anything like that. But I really want to thank the three of you for being here today. Are there any kind of departing words specifically with getting started and just maybe a really simple way to start thinking about using AI in marketing you guys want to give? Starting with Ian.
I just had a brainstorm because I do this, and I should have mentioned it before when we were talking about how to get to the things. If you have a cell phone or an iPad, you can get an app that will start you out, and you can see how these work. And there's one for Bing, there's one for Pi, which we looked at before, and then there's one called Poe, and Poe actually has several different LLMs that you can try. There's like a whole handful of them, and it doesn't cost anything. So if you do that on, as not go, you don't have to link in, you don't have to do anything. You just open it and you can use them. And it's a good way to get started if you don't know which one you want to use, or you want to see what's out there to use. It's a good thing to do. So you can try that. I love Poe because that's how I found out about some of the ones I liked so much.
So Ian, any departing words in the realm of marketing, just for some really simple ways to start thinking about using AI?
Yeah, so I just what I tell my team members all the time is, right now using AI is a choice, and in the future it won't be. It's getting integrated into everything, literally everything, I think. And whether it belongs there or not, AI is getting stuff in there. So it's important to kind of stay a little bit up to date with it, understand what's going on, and don't be afraid of it. Interface with it as much as you can, so that as more and more things become AI-ified, you can keep up and you can remain relevant. For any kind of like task you can imagine in an office setting, there are AI tools that either already exist or are being developed to greatly reduce the human element necessary. So that means that if you work in an office, no matter what you're doing, you may not be replaced by AI, but your expected output is going to change. The AI is a force multiplier for, white collar work in the same way that the Industrial Revolution was a force multiplier for physical labor. And if you aren't thinking about it in those terms, you're kind of missing the point.
Rebecca, any closing words for how to start thinking about AI in marketing for someone who's kind of just coming to the table?
Yeah, I always suggest that people kind of approach it with prudence, right? You want to, this is the unknown. This is something that's only been released to the public in the last, 10 months. We're just learning about it ourselves. They're learning as we're learning, and everything's evolving. But we are in what I like to call the AOL dial-up days, right? And so there is a lot more to come, and it's going to be a bumpy road. And there are going to be times where we're going to have conflicts or issues, or AI is going to go off the rails. And those concerns are all real. And I think that's sometimes what holds people back. But we also have this immense amount of data at our fingertips, and we're able to speak to it in natural language and understand and converse with it. And that is, to me, truly exciting. So I always encourage people to look within your business for those areas that are repeatable processes where you could help use AI and automation together to speed things up. Because ultimately, where we want to be able to fly at our peak altitude as much during the business day as possible. And AI is able to help provide acceleration for some of the mundane work that we have to do. And so it can be very, very useful. And then start to look at adding automation into the process, and you won't even believe what's possible. It's really amazing. And then look for other really great content creators out there, other people experimenting with AI. Sign up for a couple of good newsletters. Those are always great sources of information to participate in some cohorts. And there are just a lot of really great learning resources, as Leigh pointed out. And I think this is an opportunity for us to learn a new tool. We're very early in this. We are early adopters in this. And that's an exciting thing, because I think some of us felt like we missed out on the internet rage and the mobile rage and all these, where technology takes this huge leap forward. And we are there right now, and we are early in this process. So I just encourage people to, put on your business cap, your marketing cap, and then think about questions and just start to have a conversation and understand some of the rules of the road and know when it feels like AOL is going off the rails. Once you get used to it and you converse with it enough, you'll know when it's starting to act funky and when it's not. But I think it's a great resource. I like to consider it a brainstorm buddy, and whatever it outputs, I always think of it as a good first draft, but never a final. The last thing that we haven't talked about that I think is really important is there are AI content detectors out there, and I can drop a few links in the chat. Winston is an excellent one. But the idea is you can look for plagiarism and you can detect AI content. And that's really important, because if you're putting out a LinkedIn post and you decide to cut right from GPT and put it into your LinkedIn post, if your colleague caught you, they might call you out on it. So there are also good tools for detecting AI content and for checking against plagiarism. And those are really good resources to know about and to use. I'll drop a couple links right in the chat here.
Yeah, that's good.
And thank you for having me. It's really, I love talking about AI and marketing and business. And I just think it's a fabulous tool, and it's such an interesting time for us to be able to use all these tools freely. It's really remarkable.
Fun times.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. Any parting words yourself, Leigh, for how to start thinking of AI and marketing at all?
Don't be afraid of it. You're in control. Learn as much as you can. You will not regret it. But remember, it's very, very fluid. And what you learn today in weeks or months, it'll change. But that's okay, because you should start learning at the beginning, so you'll understand as these changes come, how to handle them. But don't be afraid of it. It's wonderful. You can do anything.
Wonderful. Well, thank you guys so much for being here today. I want to apologize again for the rocky start here, but we will have the recording available for those that do want to see it. Again, I will be sending out the links given in the chat today, kind of just broken down into their little respective categories in the post-workshop email. And because I think some of you folks may still be interested, I have the time. I will be just doing a quick screen share and just signing up for ChatGPT, just so you can see what it looks like in case you're still feeling a little intimidated and you don't necessarily feel comfortable doing that yourself. I know we're all kind of approaching this from different skill levels, so just seeing someone do it live can be helpful. I'm no marketing expert, but you can stick around for 5 or 10 minutes and just kind of see just how easy it is to do. But yeah, thank you again for joining us today. And hopefully this was helpful for you and you can start dipping your toes into the world of AI. And Stephen Long, I see you've got some AI, you're asking for those AI detector links. It looks like they actually only went to the hosts and panelists. Let me just put those in the chat for you. A class in Discord and business marketing. That's interesting. I don't see Discord in the world of business so much, but not to my knowledge, but I can definitely keep that on the back burner. Gonna talk to our folks here at SCORE about it and see if anybody would be interested in presenting that. Yeah, and the 3 of you guys, if you'd like to hang around as well and see if anything else just rolls in after hours, you're more than welcome. But if you have things to get to, please feel free to do so.
Thanks for having us. I do have to get back to work, but be well.
Yeah. Thanks for being here, Ian.
Thanks, Ian.
Thank you.
Thank you, Leigh. Thank you, Rebecca.
I'll stick around.
Oh, I'm sticking around. I'm not letting you do this without. I gotta
Yeah.
watch this one.
I mean, yeah, if you would like to, you're more than welcome to take the
Oh.
reins too. You know, I just didn't want to keep you guys here.
I know you, I want to be here if you need it, but I don't think you do.
Let me just get a new browser window here and get my screen sharing. Yeah, glad you found it helpful, Derek and James. Thanks for coming today. Let's see, let me get my blank browser window here. All righty. So let's go to just ChatGPT. Right, so this is ChatGPT's homepage here. You can see I just Googled ChatGPT, technically one word, as I have already been notified by Google. And then you can see there's a little login or get sign up thing here. It's as simple as just clicking sign up. So we'll do so. I have a Google account, so I'm going to continue with Google here. I'm going to use my SCORE account because I don't believe I've used that for anything OpenAI wise. Great. Michael Margolis. Yeah, I was born on April 18th. I'll give the big reveal that I am very young here. 96. Well, that phone number, you guys are going to see my phone number though. Take that.
Just make one up.
Just make one up.
Oh yeah, I actually, it's been so long. Do you have to use the link to actually
I've
sign?
never done that, but yeah, I've never done that. But the other thing that you could do is just now pop into your own GPT from here.
Yes, this is totally true. Actually,
That's a good idea.
I do have a login through that, so I will. It's a good idea.
While you're doing that, a question that I hear all the time is, what does GPT stand for? So while you're doing that, I'll just
Sure.
say that it's generative pre-trained transformer. What does that mean? Let's start from the back. Transformer is the architecture that it runs on. It's a Google architecture designed to support these large language models. It's all you need to know. It's pre-trained. So GPT 3.5, the size of a Subaru, was trained on that much data. GPT-4, the size of a 747, was trained on trillions of parameters of data. And then the first part is generative. So like I did, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, it's trying to predict the next word in the sequence. So that's all that GPT stands for, generative pre-trained transformer.
Great. So I realized I used a.
Do you want me to jump into mine? I have mine
so
open.
I'm just
Oh,
signing
there
up.
you go. Okay.
I just wanted to do that because it looks like you do need to authenticate now. 395161. Here we go.
And there you are.
And just like that, we're in.
You're in. I don't see the toggle up top, but it may be
Oh,
that.
there it is.
Might be
Oh, there you go. This is where you can toggle on and off and use the 2 different models.
Yeah, there we go.
Use one or the other.
And yeah, you can see here, it's already, we have a couple of recommendations just that you can try to get started. As I said earlier, you could ask it for a cake, so we could recommend it for a dish to bring to a potluck. And here we are. It's already just spitting information at us. It's easy as that, just to ask something. But we can tell it to stop generating too, if we've got enough information here. We can ask it to regenerate as well if we want some more information. Only one message at a time. Oh yeah, because the response isn't complete. That's okay. But for example, we can say what.
Do we have a question that somebody asked us that we can ask?
We didn't. Oh yeah, some like the Q&A questions.
Yeah. Do we
Good
have
idea.
one that would be at the top? I don't have them in front of me anymore, but maybe something easy that we can get an answer from.
Write me a tweet. Why don't you just put in, watch this, write me a tweet about X.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
it actually, if you're using 4, it will actually do, if you can toggle, all right, try it, 3.5, let's try it. Yeah. Try that. There it is. And there's your tweet, and it knew it had to be a certain number of characters. It included emojis and hashtags.
Yeah, the emojis just crack me up.
Yeah, the emojis and hashtags are great.
They don't do that for non-tweet people. I mean, it's, that's amazing that they picked up on that.
And we could even say, what are some options to grow the following of my small business on Instagram. And right now we're using it more as a query tool, right? This is kind of what some people were asking about. This is almost like a very beefy version of Google in a sense that we're using.
Yeah.
But as we discussed earlier, we were talking about writing stuff or creating content that has the kind of authentic voice of the business that we may be running, feeding it language that is already appearing on your business's page, or that people who have done marketing previously for your business have used. And you can just go ahead and copy and paste that right into this chat box, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
The other thing that you can do is you could ask it to output something in table format as well, and it will do that.
What do you think?
5 quotes, 5 quotes about, just put, give me 5 quotes about marketing in table format. And it will actually, there it is.
Yeah.
And you can drop that right into Excel.
There you are.
And with you can put it into GPT, you can put it into Google Sheets, and then in Canva, you can actually use a bulk upload feature and create a, pick a template for, say, an Instagram, post, and then you can use bulk upload, and it will actually format all of them. So people are using this to write, like, for example, I work with a health company and we do Motivation Mondays, right? So I ask it for quotes about health and wellness and fitness, put it in a table format, upload it to Canva, use bulk upload. And now all of a sudden I have 52 Motivation Mondays that those now can be scheduled, and I don't have to think about them again.
Well, we did have something rolling from Stephen here about newsletters. I know you mentioned them, Rebecca. Was there any in particular that you find to be particularly useful?
Oh God.
Yes, I think that the one that I really like is called the AI Exchange, and I just need to get back to my desktop here. And I can try and, here we go, give you a link to that. The AI Exchange, I think, is a newsletter that I really like. And they're a wonderful group of folks out west that are young, and they're science oriented and they're smart. And let me see if I have this link. Yeah, let me just give you the base link. That was my affiliate link, and I don't want to do that. But the news at AI Exchange, I think, is excellent. Rachel and her team are wonderful, and they host, I subscribe to them annually, and I get invited to all kinds of talks by companies like Zapier, or we're looking at automation, or we're going to do a cohort about prompting, or whatever those things are. And I'm also involved in a Slack channel with them and so forth. But I think this is one of the really good newsletters out there that are good to subscribe to. I have a few others and I can try and grab those links for you.
Yeah. I've
Yeah,
got-
and yeah, Derek remarking that he didn't know it did table formats, which actually I wasn't familiar with as well, which is really cool. It's able to do that. My very limited use has just been using it in a coding context. Actually, like I've created Python scripts to kind of automate tasks in a spreadsheet, for example.
Nice.
So the variety of kind of formats you can get is astounding. Again, though, you know, I had to definitely double check the work it gave me, because there was, you know, some little bugs that in the scripts it gave me, but, you know, I had the knowledge, luckily, to take care of that myself. But again, things like that, you do have to be careful.
Well, I think that that's a really good point that people, I don't know if we made that point well enough today, because you have to make sure that you're proofreading everything, and that you want it to say what it says, and that it's true and it's accurate. You really do have that responsibility, because it doesn't always give information that you would want to have out there. You have to read it, you have to go through it and edit it if you need to.
Yeah,
So-
I know a lot of people discuss using AI as a tool, and kind of, as you were saying, it does kind of appear that way, right? It's like, you know, you are using it as a means to an end, but you do want to make sure that those means are proper. So you have to stay vigilant, so to speak. I hope this just very brief look has been helpful for the few folks that have decided to hang around afterwards. I don't know if this is you know, made both you, Leigh, or Rebecca want to, you know, get anything else out there before we wrap this up. But any last demo ideas or last words?
I think there are obviously some other tools that we can get in there. There's a lot of things that we can send out if we want to do that afterwards.
Yeah,
That-
no, the most of the links I'll be including today.
Yeah.
Or that were sent today, I'll be including, certainly.
You know what we didn't do though? We didn't talk at all about images.
I was just about to say, if anyone wants to go into image prompting in a future session, I'm happy to do that. I'm also doing a 3-hour workshop at the Agents of Change conference this fall, and I'll be going into text prompting, image prompting, and automation. And that'll be interesting as well. But image prompting is really powerful and fascinating, and turning it into video is just phenomenal. So it's exciting, really exciting area, and just, you know, check it out, try it out. But again, also TikTok can be an excellent resource for watching how people use these tools. I need to run, but thank you so much for having me. I really
you for joining
enjoyed being a part of this, and I hope that I was able to provide some helpful information and encourage people to you know, take this great resource and give it a spin, because it's really an exciting time. And as Ian said, we don't know how long, you know, we'll have free and open access to all of this. So it's definitely a great way to supercharge your marketing efforts.
Well, thanks for your time, and thanks for your knowledge. Have a good rest of the day.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Bye, Leigh, as well.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, as Rebecca said, image generation, and as Leigh said too, image generation is pretty amazing. I've dabbled a little bit with Midjourney myself, which is one of the more popular image generation kind of platforms run through Discord, or image generation AIs run through Discord. And maybe I'll float that idea. There's, you know, there was quite a few people that were curious about a kind of more advanced dive into some of the tools, and
Yes,
a
exactly.
workshop around some more specific tools themselves, around GPT-4, around Midjourney maybe. And this was a, you know, very popular workshop. You know, we had great attendance today. So it seems like there's interest for it. So hopefully we'll have something for you folks in the future. Regardless, I hope everybody that came today enjoyed it, and I hope you have a good rest of your day. I've got to get back to it as well. But thank you again, Leigh, for sticking around afterwards and for your input today.
Thank you so much. You did a great job today.
Appreciate it. All right, everybody, take care.